Hello and welcome to session 7 of Unit 1 in Strategic Management course of MBA program. I am Pankaj Chauhan. I am associated with Ajay Kumar Garg Institute of Management, Ghaziabad. In this session, I will be covering the details of strategic intent and specifically covering vision. In the next session, we will cover the mission. So far, learning outcomes are concerned. After the session, you will be able to understand the concept of strategic intent and its construct. It means student will be able to understand if somebody wants to know the intent of a company, what are those elements that must be evaluated. After this session, you also will be familiar with the concept of stretch and leverage in context of strategic intent. And lastly, you will be able to understand the concept of vision and the various elements that constitute vision. So, with this, let us begin the session, and let me put this way. The word intent refers to the intention and the aim. Intention or aim. When the organization are growing, so if organizations are growing, then they will obtain lot of support from the stakeholders, and these stakeholders have some sort of expectations regarding the future of this organization. In turn, it is the prime responsibility of the management of this organization to acknowledge the expectations of these stakeholders in a certain manner, so that stakeholder would be confident about the management of the organization, that they will take care of their expectations regarding to the organization. Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahalad, they conducted a study and found only few Western companies have a good record of anticipating the moves by new global competitors, and in their research they explain the reason behind it. What happened to the Western companies was that they tried to limit their analysis of the competition to a certain reason only. So, the answer to this question basically lies in the competitor analysis. So, let us see how traditionally companies conduct competitive analysis. So, most of the time the Western companies, whenever they conducted competitor analysis, they first of all create this physical boundary. This physical boundary define that we will consider only the companies lying within this competitive frame of reference. So, if this is the company C1, then there will be these will be the competitors, and for them, while conducting the analysis part, this company will be more focusing on the resources of these competitors, and they will consider these companies as their prime competitors only if these competitors are harming their margins and becoming threat to the market share. And that is where the main problem lies. If we look at this entire exercise, so we can say that traditionally these competitors, this competitor analysis is basically like a snapshot of a moving car, which means that if we take a snapshot of a moving car, we could know that okay, this is the car and these are the nearby vehicle, but we would not be able to understand what is the speed and the degree of hotness lies in the engine and the level of fuel available. So, lot of strategically important information cannot be obtained out of a snapshot. So, what Gary Hamel and C.K. Perla suggested how to conduct this competitor analysis to be more efficient in predicting the moves of global competitors. So, they explained it with the help of an example. So, let us see this one. Caterpillar is one of the organization that basically deals into the earth moving equipments, and it was holding a market share of 70%. At this point of time, when they conducted their competitor analysis, they included only the companies lying within this box. So, this box basically represents the boundaries of the competitive reference. Similarly, the company like Xerox, which is 4 billion value company, it also did the same thing. They created the competitive reference box and they selected their competitors who are very close to their business and maybe the most probable threat to their market share. But Caterpillar never consider initially Komatsu as a main competitor. The reason for this is Komatsu was a very small player, small company, and that too with only one product line, which was small bulldozers. So, if we compare, Komatsu was approximately holding nearby 25 to somewhere 28% of the market share, and Caterpillar was holding the market share of 70%, and that too this company is into the Japan and Caterpillar was into the US. So, Caterpillar initially didn't recognize Komatsu as a main competitor. Similarly, Xerox also didn't give the status of main competitor to Canon because Canon was also a very small company. Canon was also from Japan. So, what these US based companies were missing or Western companies were missing was the extended competitor analysis of these kind of players who Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahlad called as global competitors. Right. Global competitors. In this example, what we can make out is that the Western companies focuses more on the trimming of their ambitions, which means that they try to create a match between what is available in terms of resources and what is available in terms of opportunity. So, if they found they are with less resources, right, they actually trim this opportunity, slash it, and then again create a match. Western companies found to be more in search of affordable advantage and conducted the competitor analysis for the known competitors only. They were considering only those companies as their competitors which were known to them, who were nearby to their region, who are very close to their business products. They consider those, whereas the companies from Japan, they had a different kind of mindset or intention. They accelerate the pace of organizational learning, which means that these Japanese companies like Komatsu and Canon and even the Honda per se in another example, they never try to create a match between what they have and what they can afford out of the market in terms of selling a product. And they put every effort for seemingly impossible goals. So, if from the Japanese firm's perspective, we try to understand what these Japanese companies were doing, is that a company like Komatsu, which is very small in size, had an intention to compete with a company holding 70% market share, that is Caterpillar. So, look at the intention of Komatsu against the intention of Caterpillar. We can easily see there is a complete mismatch between the resources available to Komatsu and the capabilities and resources available to Caterpillar, but still they attempt to compete against Caterpillar. So, the concept of strategic intent that was given by Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahalad out of a very depth in study on the Western companies against the Japanese companies. They conducted a lot of case studies into that research. They coined this term strategic intent. Strategic intent, by the definition, is the expression of leadership position the organization wants to attain and establish clear criterion on how progress toward its achievement will be measured. It simply means that the position of the company in the market will be in such a manner developed that measurement can be possible, and they use intent to connect the results with the means, which means that whatever planning we have, whatever plan the company has with the available resources and what they are expecting out of this plan, the results. So, these Japanese companies or the companies who had good strategic intent never consider resource as the main constraint to reach these results. They try to achieve this result with the help of strategic intent. Let me make it more clear. Strategic intent can be considered as an obsession, the passion. By having an ambition that may even be out of proportion to the resources and capabilities, backed by active management process at all the levels in the organization, in the quest for global leadership, is termed as strategic intent as per Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahalad. So, again what this explanation about strategic intent reflected is that there is a huge gap between the ambition of the company and the available resources. So, available resources and capabilities are not the real hurdle to pursue an ambition which is about the attainment of global leadership. So, such a passion, such an ambition, such an obsession reflect the intention of the company from strategic point of view, and this obsession is known as strategic intent. Now, as I said in the previous slide, that strategic intent tends to create misfit. It means we try to create those objectives which supposed to be more towards the unachievable kind of side on a continuum of goals. In other words, the strategic intent can be more better understood if we say that strategic intent is basically about the stretch and leverage. So, these are the two important conceptual construct of strategic intent. A stretch represent the gap. Stretch represent the gap between the knowledge a company has, the resources, the willpower, the capability and the competency currently available, right. So, at T1 point of time, the company C1 has got certain set of resources, but this company is not trying to pursue a goal to achieve based on available resources and capabilities. They try to have the aspirations to such a degree wherein the leadership desire to be more productive and more inventive. They try to achieve such a position which is out of the proportion of available resources. So, they try to create a gap between available resources and aspirations. This is called the stretch. Leverage refers to, now if you created a gap or if you stretch your aspirations out of the proportion of available resources, now there is a requirement to give a plan how you will achieve it. So, there comes the question, or there comes the term called leverage. It refers to the convergence, complementing of the resources to meet the aspirations that organization has become more strategic. In more elaborative sense, we can understand leverage as that this stretch create a kind of challenge. And how to meet out this challenge, we need to create some sort of innovative planning. We need to bundle up our resources in a different manner that will be more productive. So, it actually creates a challenge for the people working in the organization. This particular gap that the stretch has created, creating a challenge that now how we will achieve, or how we will fill up, or how we will close this gap. For this, the people working in the organization will work together and they will develop that sort of system. So, if we have been motivated by our intent, we have to look at what is the sizable stretch that we can pursue. Now, it is important, we must understand the stretch in terms of its length. It should not be infinity level of gap or infinity level of stretch. Stretch should be sizable, right, and then the stretch should be backed by a kind of leverage, a kind of plan that help to fill up this gap. And if we understand this sizable stretch and how to fill up this sizable stretch or the gap created by the stretch, then we understand that what is our strategic intent. Going forward, to make the strategic intent concept more clear, we can understand strategic intent as the hierarchy consisting of mission, vision, goal and objectives. So, how do we proceed further if we want to create, if we want to understand the strategic intent of a company? So, we should begin with a study of what is the company's vision, then what mission the company is pursuing currently, what are the goals and objectives the company is trying to achieve. So, that together, that the totality create the strategic intent of that company, and we would be able to understand with what strategic intent company is progressing in the future. This hierarchy highlighted one important point, is that if we move upper side to this triangle, we can see that the number are very less here. So, you would not have large number of vision or multiple number of vision, whereas if we look at the base of this, the number of goals and objectives are more. So, what we have tried to make out here is that we try to achieve this vision with the help of these goals and objectives, and it is therefore, we need to create a number of goals and objectives. Why? In case of vision, the degree of abstractness is higher. I will come to this concept of vision in the next slide. There we will see how this vision is a little more abstract form, but if we try to achieve our vision, then again we will create or express some part of our vision in terms of mission, and accordingly to achieve our mission we will create goals and objectives. So, towards the downside of this pyramid or the triangle, we become more specific, we have more number of goals and objectives. These all will work in such a manner that this vision can be attained, which is in little abstract form and which is one in terms of numbers. Now, what is vision? Vision refers to an inspirational picture of future. Let me give you one example here. When India was under the rule of Britishers, the freedom fighters in India, they created a vision regarding the future of independent India, and they used that vision of independent India to motivate people towards that goal. So, basically vision create a very abstract form of inspirational picture that if we achieve this vision, this is what we will be getting out of it. So, in a sense, vision create hope against the disparity, clarity over the problem and confusion, and it unite organization by the purpose. As I mentioned in the example, the freedom fighters, what they did, they tried to unite people against the Britishers by a vision about independent India. So, same thing is we can do in the organization in context of organizations. Vision signify desirable future state of organization. What do the organization want to become? So, we initiate an organization and gradually it become larger in size, and we will see that after 10 year, 15 year, 20 year down the line, where what it should be. So, when we try to portray that picture after 20 years or 10 years time, where what we should be, then that is nothing but our vision. Vision in terms of its elements consisted of three important dimensions or elements. One is core value, second is core purpose, and third is visionary goals. So, it would be good to say that vision is equals to core values, core purpose, and visionary goals. So, core values, what are the core values? Core values are always explored. These are explored. When I say explored, it means as a organization, right? Maybe to contrast this organization which is maybe 3 or 5 year old, a startup. So, this is startup may be out of the effort of one individual, or maybe out of the group of a group of individual. So, to find out what are our core values, we need to look at what are the things that are actually consisting our character. So, core values define persistent character of an organization that remain unchanged irrespective of change in competition and leadership. So, if I am saying that this organization is, say for example, 10 year old. So, within this 10 years period of time, this may have seen lot of ups and downs in its life, and during this process there may be the changes in the leadership, there may be the changes in the management, there may be change in the businesses where they were earlier into and where they are now. But irrespective of where they are doing their business, what management is driving them, what are those things that are still lying with this organization constitute the core value. So, I said they are explored. Similarly, for the startup, these individual or group of individual need to take up what is something which remain unchanged, define their personal character, later on may become the character of this startup, that will not be affected by any happening around their business domain. That will be consisting of the core values. Now, core purpose, the idealistic reason for which the firm exists, and it is the path on which firm will proceed. This normally expressed in mission. And finally, the visionary goal, they represent the milestone and benchmark, and they represent a stretch. A stretch was the gap between the gap between the resources available and the aspirations we are striving for, and this gap is nothing but your stretch. So, visionary goals represent this stretch, and visionary goals also backed by the plans that reflect the leverage part. Now, let us try to understand it with this example. This is the example of vision statement of Tesla. Tesla is the company owning by Elon Musk. The vision statement of Tesla Inc. stated that they are there to create the most compelling car company of 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. So, let us understand this example from the perspective of, if somebody asks you to evaluate the vision statement of a company, how will you go about it? Because understanding of vision require lot of reading and observations of the companies. So, as a student of strategic management, I must be knowing 2, 3, 4 criteria that I can use to evaluate, to analyze the vision statement of a company. And it is therefore on the previous slide I stated that this vision statement should have the explanation or the description of core value, the core purpose, and the visionary goal. These are the 3 different elements, and whenever we try to analyze the vision statement, we must look at whether these are there or not. So, let us try to evaluate this. So, out of this vision statement, what I can extract out is they want to be most compelling car company of 21st century that leads to the global shift toward electric vehicle. So, these are the 3 things that I can extract if I am trying to evaluate this vision statement. So, the most compelling car that become the core value, they will remain compelling, they will remain persuasive, they will remain convincing, it will not change, and that we have seen in terms of Tesla's growth. To become the car company of 21st century, this is nothing but the visionary goal that is reflecting a kind of milestone or a benchmark. And finally, what they want to achieve, what is their core purpose here, what is the reason why this firm existing, is that they try to lead the shift of the companies from of the automobile companies from the petrochem based automobile to sustainable fuel based companies. So, this is their core purpose. So, you can this way analyze the vision statement. Now, let me just brief in the end that what we have covered in this session. In this session specifically, I tried to explain what is the strategic intent, and thereon I discussed the research done by Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahlad. So, if you want to study more about the strategic intent, you can refer to that very interesting paper published in HBR long year back in 1989 somewhere. It is very interesting study. Thereon you can see that strategic intent actually is a hierarchy. It as a term, it is a single term, but if we try to dissect this, we will have 3 things out of it: the vision, the mission, the goals and objectives. In this session, I also try to cover what is vision and the elements of vision. So, with this, I hope I make out something very valuable to you. In next session, we will cover up the further aspect of strategic intent. Thank you.